This is CWTFB Radio. This is another episode brought to you by Details Car Audio and Car Accessories, right over on 975 Turnpike Street in Canton, right on 138. If you need any detailed needs, a quick hand car wash, inside, interior, outside, exterior details. If you need any car audio needs, speakers, subwoofers, wiring, all types of stuff. If you need a car alarm, any car accessories that you could possibly think of, and we also do motorcycle accessories as well. Definitely stop by Details. Let them know Charlie sent you. We'll take care of you. We're right in Canton, in the heart of Canton, and we're gonna have a nice, friendly staff to be over there and help you out. Now, CWTFB Radio. This is gonna be the 4th episode here. I'm here with we have a special in-house personality that is gonna. You may come back every now and then for a few interviews and things of that nature. I'm gonna give him the floor real quick. My man Rick, King Rick.
What up?
What's good, baby? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be here.
I definitely glad to have you here, man. I'm happy that you came down, man. And the person we're gonna be talking to today, we're gonna be sitting with, is a very, very long time friend of mine. I've known this guy since I was about, 12, 13 years old. Known this guy for way too long, more than half my life, like literally. I've seen this young gentleman grow into a very, very successful guy, a very respectable guy. He's always been a very definite person, because once he put his mind to something, he was always going to make it work. I always knew he was a man of conviction. He not like convict, you know what I'm saying? But he was always convicted to his cause. He's a family man, business owner. He has one of the illest restaurants out right now, one of the illest Dominican restaurants right now in the Boston space. Where I work out, we get catering every 3 weeks, because it's popping. You know what I'm saying? Catering to a lot of different events, actually, to a lot of different places, a lot of different vendors. I've seen this guy become a serial entrepreneur, literally. Like, I've seen him start things, and some of them failed, some of them didn't. Some of them lasted long, some of them didn't. But what's dope about him, like I said on my previous episode, was we ain't scared of trying. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we're going to do something. Fuck it. Let's do it, right? And if we're going to do it, let's do it all the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, man, give your undivided attention here for my man Roberto Green Jr., man.
Thank you.
And we call him Tito, so we're going to call him Tito.
You guys know me as Tito.
We call him Tito, man. Robertito. You know what I'm saying?
The Godfather.
That's my guy, man. So how you feeling, baby? I'm
feeling good, man.
I'm glad to have you up here, man.
Thank you.
For real, man. I've been trying to have a sit down with you for a little bit since the last joint. Didn't really work out that well, but we here, man. We here.
I'm glad you're doing this too. It's amazing. For
sure, man. I appreciate it, man. Like, I hope you're tuning in, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you just saying that because you're on air right now. That's what's up, man. I appreciate you, bro. I wanted to bring you up here really to kind of like give people insight on how to get into business, right? Because there's different types of businesses that people could do out here, right? The internet is huge right now, right? You can get paid from not even leaving your house anymore, which is dope, right? What was always dope about you is that you always had physical businesses with tangible products, right? And right now you in the restaurant space. I know you're doing the real estate investing right now as well. But let's kind of backtrack and kind of give people a story of what made you want to be an entrepreneur, man. Because I remember you was a teenager working at Stop and Shop. You know what I'm saying? Yo, and speaking to the mic, bro.
Of course.
So yeah, man, like, give them your story, man. Let them know, like, what was the point where you was like, you know what, I don't want to work for nobody. This is what I want to do.
I mean, I've always had like an entrepreneur mindset. Even when I was a kid, I remember I used to sell like little toys to my grandmother.
Right.
I used to put like a quarter for this, a quarter for that, $1 for this, $1 for that. So I was kind of like, she kind of helped nourish that type of mindset.
Yeah.
And I was always, really just thinking outside the box. When I was in high school, as soon as I was able to work, I wanted to work.
Right.
And I asked my uncle to give me a job as soon as I could. I think I turned 14, 15, around that time frame.
It's very Mexican of you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Right.
Going into a supermarket to work. And I was like, I really just wanted to work. I wanted to be independent.
Right.
Me as a kid, I was always like really, really rebellious. You know, I love my parents. They always, you know, they supported me. They're always there for me. They care about me. But I felt like in a sense they were kind of strict. No, and I can't blame them.
Right.
But that strictness kind of made me that rebellious type of person. Where I'm like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I want to do this. I want to do that. So because, you know, I see my friends going out all the time and they wouldn't let me. So I'm like, I really want to go out.
Right.
But Spanish parents, they're just like, no, you're going to go home, go to school, learn, that's it.
Right. And I remember that, man. You being frustrated because, you know,
So
I used to be out here wilding. And I think the difference is that your parents were fairly young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't older like my mom. My mom was tired of raising kids. You know what I mean? She was just like, yo, Charlie, figure it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't going to listen to your siblings, then you know what I mean? You figure it out, right? So, so you start working, you know what I mean? You young, you know what I mean? You start getting your little first gig and things of that nature. So, did you, you know, look, being a teenager, right? Like, you know, we're in high school, whatever, everybody's talking about going to college and things like that. Did you always look at college as a gateway for you?
No, I never wanted to go to college.
Right.
I only went because my parents wanted me to.
Right.
I had no idea what it was. I feel like high school, I mean, I didn't look for it either. But I felt like high school didn't really prepare me for it. So I had no idea what I wanted to get into.
Right.
All I knew was that I had to go through financial aid. And I had to involve my parents to borrow money to go to school for something I didn't even know about.
Right.
So that kind of, I was very discouraged. If it wasn't for the bottom line program, it was
I
a
remember
program
that.
here in Jamaica Plain.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't have done it. And then when I went into UMass Boston, I was there for like 2 years. Very general, did liberal arts. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I at least wanted to get good grades.
It was a technicality.
Yeah, so I got good grades for the first 2 semesters, and then after that, it was just like redundant. The teachers didn't really seem to care.
Right.
There was like 30, 40, 50 different kids, and it was just like I didn't feel like I was getting that undivided attention.
Yeah.
So I really just started to, you know, skip to go work.
Right.
So I went back to what I did in high school. I used to skip class to go to work.
Right.
In particular, physics class. Cause
Yo,
I couldn't
you know what's
do it.
funny, man? I got a funny story about physics class, man. What was that dude's name again? In our junior year? You know,
Mr.
fuck him.
Harrington?
It don't even matter. Whatever, fuck him.
I think it was Mr. Harrington.
Was it Harrington?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
He's some fucking
But it don't
square
matter.
ass nigga. But anyway, he I remember one time I was dead ass sick, dog, and I told Tito, I was like, yo, dog, I'm tired and like I got work later, dog. I'm about to call out. And you was like, nigga, you about to call out. And I was like,
Like, what does that even mean?
What does that mean?
I was like, yeah, nigga, I'm about to go get some sleep. And you're like, nigga, how much you make an hour? And I told him, and you're like, all right. And how many hours you supposed to work tonight? And then he was like, I told him, he was like, all right, nigga, that's like $50 that you going out on right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you want
Just
to
to go
be
to
sick.
sleep.
You tired. And I'm like looking at this nigga like, dog, I'm dead ass sick, bro. Like what you
It
mean?
don't matter.
And like that was your mentality from jump, bro. Like it's like, bro, I gotta get this paper, man. And you always did it the right way, man. You always, you know, there was never no.
Yeah, you was a good boy.
I thought, that's because my parents, they were
Right.
very strict. But
You was
that's
scared.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's also why I also thank them for that because
Of
it also
course.
avoided, you know, me getting into trouble in
Like
the
this
street
jackass.
with
Yeah.
Charles.
Like me.
How many
yeah.
times I bailed you out?
Oh shit!
It was twice. Yeah.
But I was there. You know, I was there
That's
for you.
facts.
It's because you worked that overtime. You was able to bail him out.
Overtime.
yeah.
I actually bailed out Narcy too.
Yeah,
you built
that's
up
a lot of
for us, man.
overtime
Yeah,
to
man.
bail out Narcy, man. Shout out to Narcy, baby.
That's a lot of overtime to build that
It was-
nigga out. But
I
yeah,
remember,
shout
I
out. Yo,
remember.
Tito always was a real one, man. So you, all right. So from that point on, right? You a teenager. Yeah, I mean, you getting, you know, just regular hourly money and things of that nature. What was next for you? Like, run us through that. Like, how did life change for you?
Oh my God. So the second year that I went to UMass, I remember I was in class. I wasn't even paying attention, and we were taking a test. All I did was I wrote my name and I gave it to the teacher, and I was like, I can't take the test. It was like the final exam, you know.
Yeah.
It was like 90% of your grade, and I gave it back. I gave it to him, and I told him I couldn't do it. And he asked me why, and I told him that, you know, my girlfriend at the time was pregnant.
Right.
So he let me away. You know, he told me he wasn't gonna fail me. He wasn't gonna pass me. He was just gonna let it go, and I can retake the class again next semester if I chose. But I ended up not dropping out of college.
Okay.
In a sense, I was forced to drop out of college because now I had to raise a family.
Right.
And when I look back at it, it was like a very dark moment in my life because I see a lot of my friends now that are just now having kids.
Yeah.
They go through the gender reveal. They tell their family, or they.
You ain't even have none of that.
I didn't have any of that, and it's like.
Well, before, honestly, like gender reveals
weren't even there, but like
gender reveals are trash, by the way.
I get it, but when you see it now,
I feel you.
But when I see it now, like it hurts me because when I said I was gonna have a baby, it was like a disappointment. So that to me killed me, and it's like nobody was excited. Everybody's like, why? And why now? I was like 20 years old. So to me, that killed me. And then some family members wanted the abortion, and I didn't want it.
No, of course not.
So I knew I had to own up to what I did, and I ended up getting 3 jobs. I started working at Stop and Shop. Again, I kept working. I worked at Sears, and I started delivering newspapers in Beacon Street every Thursday, Friday night in the middle of the night. And that's when I kind of found a program called Year Up, that 1 year intensive training program. And Year Up really changed my life. They were there for me. And because of them, I was able to kind of catapult my career. But it was a struggle. Oh my God. I was living at my mother's house. My girlfriend at the time, she was also living with me too. And then it became my son's room. So it was like all 3 of us living in a small room. It used to be my room.
Right.
And I just remember being depressed.
Yeah.
It was very depressing. I became angry at her. In a way, I started resenting her. I know it was both of our faults, but I just resented her. And then our relationship, the foundation of the relationship wasn't there anymore. So throughout the years, that relationship, we were just building off a broken foundation.
Right. So
and that's kind of why it ended up not following through. And there was a lot of things that happened as well, but it was just a broken foundation. I thought I was in love. I thought I was gonna be an amazing dad and whatever, but it was just a very stressful time.
I hear you, man. And what's crazy is I was there for that, man. I seen you go through that. I remember when, you was the first one of us, like out of our whole crew, man,
and
to have a kid.
Said I was the first one to say I would never get married.
Right, and not only
actually,
that,
I might have beat you on having a kid. I was a little older than you. I had a kid first, but you was you was a quick second. You was playing no games.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember when you told us you was gonna get married and shit.
Yeah, nobody wanted me to get married.
I was disgusted.
Yeah, everybody.
I remember that. I remember that like yesterday, man. I was really mad at you.
I wouldn't even say I was disgusted.
Yeah, you were. We're not gonna lie. You was there.
I was a witness.
You was there. You was there, but we wasn't happy.
I was.
We wasn't happy. He gonna fake the funk.
And like I said, he was a man of conviction, dog. That man he made a decision.
Yeah.
I already knew it was already gonna go down. It didn't matter what anybody told him. He already made his decision. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
But so all right. So fast forward, right? So after you do the whole Year Up situation, right? How did that help you get into the position that you wanted to get? Because where'd you start working at from there?
So from Europe, I got into State Street Bank.
Okay.
Financial institution. I didn't think they were gonna take me. I'm a kid, working Stop and Shop. On my resume,
Right. You had no
nothing, and it was a bilingual position, and my Spanish was broken.
Right.
So to me, it's like
Nosotros.
When I went to go for the interview, they hired me, and I was so surprised. I was like, why me? I don't have a degree. I don't have anything. But then, fast forward a year later, I asked her, I'm like, why did you hire me?
Because you're Latino.
Because I'm Latino. No, it's not because I'm Latino.
No, what was it?
It was because she saw how motivated I was for the position, how much she knew I would work hard for that position.
Because she knew you'd be a slave. Yeah, she knew that you'd kill yourself for it.
I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican.
This man Mexican. I'm
Puerto Rican.
Same shit. Tomato, man.
Tomato. So they gave me the position, but that's when I started really getting into the corporate world. So now it's a different type of mentality and a different pay. I was able to move out of my mother's house.
Right.
Got my own apartment.
Right. I remember that first.
It was amazing. And that's when I started becoming independent. So to me, I loved it. But then a couple years later, we ended up falling into a credit card debt. It's a typical consumer debt.
Right.
Where you're not even thinking, you're just trying to buy things. So look, now you have a job, so now you're just trying to trying to use that money and trying to get credit from other companies, and that just kind of put us in a hole because we just started falling into that debt. So we ended up having to move back to my mother's house because we could no longer afford the rent. We moved back to my mother's house, and my mother literally turned her dining room into our room. And that was another low point in my life because I'm like, wow, like I'm over here trying to move forward, and then instead of moving forward, now I'm moving 10 steps back, and I have a job. So to me, I needed to get a promotion. So then that's when I worked harder, and I ended up getting a promotion in State Street again. So then I kept working my way up. And it was, it was tough, but it was stressful, and it was a lot of like, I started dealing with like anxiety.
Right.
Because me as a father, I'm looking at my son, I can't afford, me as a father, I feel like I failed him.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't give him the type of life he wants. I can't give him a roof. I have to go back to my mother's house.
Yep.
And that to me is just, I'm grateful for her, but it's like a low point for me because I'm like, me as a man, I can't provide for my family.
But it's a double-edged sword because in
Correct.
retrospect, young parents, you how old was you when your son was born?
I turned 21.
Right.
Yeah.
He was 21, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, now,
You ain't no
when
shit.
you think about it like that, it's like, all right, most 21-year-olds, when they move out, I want to say 8 times out of 10 they go back, right? And you don't think about it like that. I got my man Steve over here shaking his head no. Okay, nigga, you that 2 out of 10. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know 30-year-olds still living with their moms and dads. So
I know 30-plus-year-olds still living with their moms.
Facts.
I'm not saying that they're failures or whatever the case may be, but I understood how that could put you in a damper because you're a proud man. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you have a son that you want to tell these stories to, right? And it's like, how do I want to tell my story, right? But at the end of the day, when you look at all the moves that you made that kind of set you back, that made you, even like a more precise decision maker, right? You were more keen on if I do this is what's going to happen, right? You actually learn how to gauge risk, right? In a sense, right? Am I just...
No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, so it's like to all the 21-year-olds out there who are going to hear this, shit like that happens all the time, man. The only difference is my man didn't give up, man. So what happens next, right? Because I know you left State Street, you started doing other things, you had another kid.
Yeah, I ended up having my daughter, Roslyn, but we were still at my mother's house. We managed to get out of debt. I managed to get another promotion. But this time I started learning how to negotiate salaries.
Right.
And this is just me networking, meeting people. So this is kind of where I started just learning. I was like, from, your 20s you learn, 30s you build.
Yep.
And 40s you just retired. That's the plan. So me, I took my 20s. I just started learning as much as I could from different people. I spoke to everybody from like senior level executives.
Right.
I spoke to the CEO at one point, and it was just having these conversations and not being afraid, to ask questions because these people actually taught me everything that I know now. So I learned how to negotiate my salary. I increased my salary from, I think it was 37 grand to 55 grand. And it was
a lot. That's a huge jump, man.
Especially for it to be internal.
Absolutely.
So to me, I took that knowledge and then I started, okay, how can I capitalize off this knowledge? So then I started a resume building program.
Yeah, I remember that.
I do remember that.
I started coaching because then I started
so.
teaching other people because I thought it was something that everybody knew. Apparently, not a lot of people knew.
Unfortunately, they don't teach us that, man.
They don't teach you that.
Nah.
So that's when I got mad. I'm like, wow, like they should have taught me this in college, but they didn't. So I took it upon myself to teach people, but I obviously charged them.
Yeah, of course. Got to make a buck, man.
But by me charging them, it was also, the entrepreneur side of me, but it was also like the survival side of me because I was like, damn, I need to make more income. Yeah. Because the income that I was making wasn't enough. So I'm always looking for different streams. Like, it's not even that I wanted it, I needed it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me to continue the entrepreneur mindset because at that point I also bought a restaurant. It failed, yes, but I learned a lot from that experience, which I then transitioned to this restaurant that I have now.
Right.
But State Street, I learned, I got the promotion, I was able to move back out, so I was back on my 2 feet, but I wasn't happy, and that had a lot to do with me not putting in the time. The same time I put into my job, the same time I put into all the businesses, I didn't put it into my marriage at the time, and I didn't put it into myself.
Right.
And then I started gaining weight. I started becoming depressed. I started going home late. I was at one point very promiscuous, and that really failed me.
Yeah.
Because I should have been home with my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of mistakes that I made throughout that marriage. But a lot of things that I had to learn the hard way. And that was always me learning the hard way. But it was just tough overall. But I always found ways to kind of like overcome them. But it got to the point where the anxiety was too much, and I didn't know it was anxiety. Right. It was just symptoms that I was having that I was like shaky. I was like,
what the fuck is going
drowsy.
on?
I'm like, what's going on with me? Like, I wanted to like crawl out of my skin, and it got so bad that to the point where I remember I went to the doctors. They tried to give me some medication. I hate taking medication, but I ended up just trying it because it was too much anxiety. I remember driving to work one day. I dropped off my son, and then while I was driving to work, I dozed off because of the medication.
Shit, man.
I ended up driving over a snowbank, and the car almost tilted over.
Mm-hmm.
But it went on the other side of the street, and then all I remember was waking up to like white. And I thought I was dead, but it was like snow that was covered
on
the whole windshield. The windshield was cracked. My glasses got broken, and when I went to go see my manager, I told him what happened. He told me to take a break, so I ended up going on short-term disability because I needed to get my mental health.
Get yourself right, yeah.
And me, it was. I look at it now, and it's like I should have got help a long time ago, because me, it was like I was trying to do everything by myself.
Right.
Of course.
But imagine me, working a corporate job at like 23, 24 years old, being married, having 2 kids, paying all these bills, and trying to figure out life, and then trying to do overtime to try to make extra income, doing side business. It was just too much. And then I stopped going to the gym, and it was just I wasn't taking care of myself.
Right.
And then that's when I started learning like I need to make myself a priority. And this is something I learned in my second marriage, that I need to also focus on myself. I need to put myself first.
Right.
And that's
a maturity thing.
Right.
You know
and
what
that's
I'm saying?
something, that you learn. I learned the hard way, but I had to go through that anxiety phase, which I ended up overcoming without taking medication.
Good.
And just, working out, eating healthy. Okay. I ended up starting like a meal prep program too.
You still doing that?
No, I stopped because we got so big. I did it because the restaurant at the time was slow. Yeah. So again, survival. I needed to make income. People started ordering a lot of orders for the meal prep. But then I got the restaurant to the level that I wanted to, and then I stopped. Now I only do one or two clients exclusively, but that's it. I don't really put too much time into it.
Right.
But yeah, and then long story short, I ended up going back to work. And I needed to get out, and I knew I needed to make more money. So again, I took everything that I learned. I started applying. I thought that I wanted to move to Florida, because I hate the winter. I wanted to change the lifestyle, change my environment. And by doing that, I ended up interviewing in Florida. I didn't get the position, but then I ended up finding a position in JP Morgan. Okay. Then this company, I negotiated, and I went from $55,000 to $80,000. Okay. Plus bonuses.
That's a gigantic jump, man.
Huge jump. But it's all learning and networking, and that's how I got the job. I had somebody that I used to work with in State Street, went over there, referred me, told me how to negotiate. Boom, done. And I didn't think I was going to get it, but all those, I failed so many times. I was going through like 10, 12 interviews. Right. And all of them told me no. I'm like, damn, why? Like, I was so desperate. I'm like, somebody take me. I was like, I didn't even care if it was like a sales job, just commission. I wanted to get out. Right. But everything, happens with time and purpose. And then it was my time to make that amount of income and move forward with my life. So I ended up, and it was a powerful moment because years back, that was the same, where the location of where JP Morgan was. It was on 1 Beacon Street, and it was the same location I used to deliver newspapers.
Wow. There you go.
So to me, it was
That's crazy.
It was powerful.
That's dope.
Because I used to look up at the building, and then I was looking down at the street that I used to deliver the newspaper. It was amazing. To me, it was amazing.
So with making $80,000 a year, what made you decide to leave the corporate world to go into your own entrepreneurship? Like, what made you leave $80,000? That's a lot of money to just leave on the table. What made you decide to quit that?
At that time, I was going.
Laughed. He's like, $80K is a lot.
Because he got money.
Yeah.
By the way, he smelled really good.
Louis Vuitton.
He smelled like money. That's how you know.
Ray Charles can see this nigga got money.
Oh yeah.
You would think at 80 grand, you know, after all those years, I was happy. I wasn't. I was miserable.
Okay.
You know, I was grateful, yes, because I was making 80 grand, but I wasn't happy in the sense, you know, I was still working 9 to 5. I had to wake up. It was the same routine every day.
Yep.
And I was just sick of it.
Monotonous.
You know, it was that monotonous lifestyle, and I hated it. I cannot be behind the desk all day.
Right.
All day, Monday through Friday. To me, it was like the things I used to do in JP Morgan, like in the company. It was just I was always finding ways. I was either writing my book or planning out an escape. I was always trying to plan an escape.
Okay.
You know, unfortunately, during that time, I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
And that's kind of where my life just turned around. And I thought I had everything. You know, I had the 2 kids, I had the wife, I had a house, I had an apartment for myself. I even had a puppy. You know, the perfect family. You know? We would travel here and there.
Yeah.
We just came from a cruise. And you would think that I'd be happy, but it was like I wasn't. You know, there was so much going on.
Right.
And long story short, you know, she ended up leaving me. So I ended up having, you know, everything to having nothing. Like literally, I ended up with nothing. You know, she kept the apartment, she kept everything in it, kept the kids, and I had to go back to my mother's house.
Wow.
And in my mother's house, I did a lot of thinking because the room that I stayed in was the room that my son used to sleep in, and it was like a closet.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a small closet space. So it was, how does a guy, you know, earning 80 grand, you know, with everything that he has, lose everything and go back to his mother's house, you know, and living in a closet?
Yeah.
So to
Hey, yo,
me,
these are the stories people don't talk about,
No,
man.
they
People don't know
It's the
this
shit
kind of
that
stuff,
people don't
man.
talk
This
about,
is real
man.
life
I'm really
shit.
glad you're
And
sharing this right now, bro.
that's our fault too, because you know we're too busy here, you know, showcasing on social media all the good. You know, everybody was so confused when we got divorced. It was like,
Right.
how, Roberto?
Right.
You know, because they saw us going on. We had just come from vacation.
That was picture perfect.
It was.
picture perfect.
Right.
But that's the thing. That's the
But
problems with
But the
pictures.
thing is, and one thing that she had told me was like, we're playing house. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I'm like, what do you mean? And I was like, wow, you're right. We
Right.
are playing house. So again, instead of me investing the time I should have in my marriage, trying to build that relationship because it was broken, you know, I didn't do that. And the relationship just broke apart.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the help I needed because it was a lot for me. You know, I had I was angry at everything. You know, I was angry at myself. But you know, when you're angry at yourself, you try to find other people to blame. So I was blaming her.
Scapegoat.
And I should have focused more on myself. So I was in my mother's house just thinking, you know, and I ended up going on short-term disability because I was messing up a lot at work. And then what happened was the job ended up letting me go because of all the issues that I was going through.
Wow.
And because there was too many complaints from the clients because I obviously wasn't thinking straight.
These jobs ain't loyal.
No, they're not. So
No,
they just care about the bottom line, and you know you gotta respect it. It's a business.
Absolutely. I understand it.
So I went to starting from zero, basically.
Right.
Starting
And
all
I
over
didn't know
again.
what to do. I had to fight for my kids. I had to fight to see them. And it was just stressful. You know, it was just too much in my mind. But it was like I needed to find a way to move forward.
Right.
So what I ended up doing was I cashed out of my 401k. You
Okay.
can take out up to 50% of your 401k. And I bought a house.
Okay.
I bought a 2-family investment property.
Okay.
And that kind of, you know, I didn't want to live in it, but I wanted it to produce cash flow, that
Right.
income.
Residual income.
So then that's kind of where I started my real estate. My kind of, that's when I started real estate in general, just
Right.
investing.
Okay.
I started
Right.
learning about it.
Right.
So I had that first property, and then that's when I started learning about dealing with tenants.
Okay.
And I ended up throughout that time meeting my wife that I'm currently with now, and she had a restaurant. Me, I was very into like social media marketing, so I was
Right.
always helping her market
Right.
the business.
Right. What's
But
the name
then-
of that restaurant, yo?
Las Palmas restaurant.
Yeah.
Where's that at? Where's that at?
Right now, it's on Washington Street in
Yeah.
Rosendale, but
No
we may
doubt.
be moving soon.
Yeah.
Gonna speak that
So
into
there's
existence.
More to come.
No doubt.
But you know, my wife now, she's been amazing. You know, she's the partner that I feel like she completes me in a sense, because she's what I needed.
Shout out Mrs. Green.
she's what I needed to, get out of that rut.
Yeah.
And she's very business minded, very savvy, very independent. She was running the business on her own, with 2 kids. And to me, I was just so impressed with her. I'm like, you're amazing. But she needed a lot, she needed help. And I saw that. So I was helping her with the business.
In more than one way than one, right?
Correct.
You helped
You was
out.
helping her out.
Changed her life.
You was changing everything.
Babe, don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Nah, this is me.
Say, I love you, yo.
I love you, baby.
You know what I'm saying?
We love you too,
No
baby.
disrespect, you know what I'm saying?
So the business I ended up taking over, I think 2018.
Okay.
And last year alone, we tripled in sales.
You hear that? Tripled.
You see, and everything happens for a reason.
Correct.
Everything, man.
I had to go through everything that I had to go through to learn about business, to learn about strategizing, to learn about marketing, to learn about just about everything. And it helped me get into this business and really understand the business and then kind of catapult it to the next level.
Right.
I noticed that we weren't making a lot of sales in the front by just selling to the front. So I started doing my research, due diligence. I started focusing on catering.
Yes.
Catering is where it's at.
Where the money is in
Yes.
the restaurant.
Yes.
In the restaurant business, 75% of the
You
revenue
know
that
what
we brought
niggas
in
want.
was from catering.
Exactly.
Right.
Pollo guisado.
The what?
That pollo guisado.
Pollo guisado.
That mofongo.
They want all that.
Bistec con coco. Bistec con
Tostones.
coco.
We have it all.
Yeah, I mean,
It's amazing. And I quit my job in 2018, January 7th, 2018, and I never looked back. It was scary because I was supposed to get into the truck business. I had my US DOT license and everything. But then that fell through because my friend had a bad experience. He ended up losing money. So I just saved myself the hassle. And then I was like, okay, let me try something else.
Invest it elsewhere.
So I took the money, invested elsewhere. I had also, and it was just learning the business, researching the business, finding mentors, and just really helped me grow the business. And then real estate, I found a really good mentor. I took his courses, and he started getting me into the game of real estate investment, where you buy and flip properties.
Okay.
And that to me was a game changer, because there's so much potential and so much opportunity in the market that if he teaches you how to find the good deal, and then how to kind of price it out in your mind when you go to a viewing, figure out how much the cost is going to be to rehab the house, and then it shows you how much you can potentially make from the unit.
How many houses have you flipped?
I flipped 3 so far.
Look at you, man.
So
that's what's
that's
up.
just me just starting, and it's been an amazing experience, and just continuing to move forward. So
that's dope, bro. I mean, I'm really proud of you, bro. Like, no bullshit. I tell you that all the time, man. Like, I see you doing your thing. Like, you're definitely direct inspiration.
Thank you.
Because I've seen where you came from, and while I was making a lot of mistakes, you stayed the course. And it was different types of mistakes, right? You know what I mean?
I'm still gonna make mistakes,
Of course.
but we know how to overcome them, how to grow, and it's focusing on ourselves.
Right.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And with you just being a father, man, I mean, I look up to you a lot. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Being
yeah.
a really good dad, man. And, when I stepped into fatherhood, you was definitely one of the people that I looked at like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, my man been doing this for a little bit. But so what's next, man? I mean, like, actually, let's take a step back about what's next. Like, what would you tell people who want to get into entrepreneurship right now? Like, what would you tell the young cats that's like, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old saying, because not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody wants to go that route, right? Now, when I was figuring out my college shit, you know what I'm saying? I was, tax free. But, you know what I'm saying? You was, you was paying Uncle Sam. So, like, what would you recommend to a young cat like that has that drive to be an entrepreneur?
To become an entrepreneur, you need to understand it's a lot of work, and it's not just, there's no really path to success, and to me, success doesn't even exist. You're always going to have a dream that you're never going to reach because you're always looking to move forward. Me, the biggest lesson I learned in entrepreneurship was to fail and fail fast and just recover.
Right.
You need to, failures make your experiences and they help you learn.
You hear that? You hear that? Say that again. Say that again.
Facts.
failures make the experiences that help you learn.
That's real shit.
When you learn, you become an expert in that field. So don't ever the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. You know, being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of risk. When my job let me go, it was my income wasn't even secured because my wife had the restaurant and I didn't even know if I was going to generate an income. Right. I just knew I had to work hard and find ways to generate that income one way or another. So people that want to be entrepreneurs, they need to understand it's a lot of work. It's not like you're 9 to 5. And again, there's nothing wrong with working 9 to 5.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
The thing that I tell people is that the field that whatever business you want to grow, you know, find a field or a career or a job that will get you that experience, but will get you paid. So you're getting paid to learn instead of you trying to figure out on your own and not get paid and take bigger risks.
Right.
You know, so to me, it's like you really need to take that time to learn, get paid, save your money because you also need capital.
Right.
Yes.
So I was saving my money in a 401k, and that helped me buy my house. That helped me get started.
401ks is very lit.
Yes.
Very
you could
important.
take up to 50% of your 401k and invest it into a property without any penalties.
It's very important.
That's not taught, and it's a huge information. But the entrepreneurs, you know, it's, again, you're not going to be working your 9 to 5. You might be working long hours. But what I tell people is to don't make your business a job. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see entrepreneurs make.
Make it a job?
They make their business a job.
In what sense?
They don't know how to delegate the work. They don't know how to create systems for people to follow, to make it more efficient, to then build that leverage so you can start leveraging other people. When I had the restaurant, my wife had it. It was nonstop working, cooking. It was draining, you know, and it gets you to the point. It gets you to the point. It gets you to the point where you want to go back to work. Right. You don't ever want. You don't ever want
shit.
You don't ever want.
At least I can clock out and I don't got to take the shit home with me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So what I started doing, I started creating system processes that work where I could just, I literally replaced my wife in the job. She doesn't have to work as much as she used to.
That's awesome.
She's just overseeing everything.
And that's
that's what you want.
That's
you know,
the point.
Whatever business you have, you want to make sure that it's something that you either love or that it's something that you can hire somebody else to do, if that's what you want. Because a lot of people say they want financial freedom. They don't want to work. They want to work from home. And that to me is nonsense. That's just something that social media is selling you nowadays.
It's not a real thing. You know, you're always going to have to work.
That 4-hour work week to me is bullshit. Right. You know, because you need to work. The guys, you know how many hours that guy is working to sell you? Hey, you only need to work 4 hours.
Richard Branson works a lot.
But he's in the back working so much. You call these gurus and you know, marketeers, whatever. They're just trying to sell you a dream. Right. You know, you're not really working 4 hours. You're working way more hours, but it's working them systematically. Right. So that you're not just busy, you're productive. Absolutely. And it all comes down to income. How much money are you bringing in? Right. How much is coming out, and what are you left with? When you look at a business, and if you want to buy a business, you know, to me, I don't care about how much gross sales it makes. I could care less. How much net profit does it leave?
That's all that matters.
That's
the most important
thing.
We was just talking about that earlier.
Literally was talking about that shit earlier, man.
Yeah, it doesn't. People say, "Oh, this business makes $500,000." Okay, but
what's your net?
You spent $480.
What's your fucking net?
How much you take?
So you're only left with 20. So that's not a business that you
ain't
can
shit.
live off of.
Right. It's not lucrative.
You know, and then you take the Grant Cardone concept of 10xing. You know, I have the house in Brockton. It makes at least $800 cash flow, right? So in your mind, it's like the 10x rule applies. Okay, just buy 10 houses. Find the way to buy 10 houses. Obviously, you're not going to buy all 10 houses at once.
But over
you
time,
start with one, then you find the second one, and then you're starting to increase.
Build that.
Making small, milestone goals is key. You know, everybody has their main goal, but they need to work backwards. Gary Vee calls it reverse engineering. You know, you find your end goal, and then find small steps that'll help you get to that goal. Right. And then when it comes to success, you really need to understand what success means to you.
Right.
Because what success means to somebody else could be something completely different.
Yeah.
To some people, it's money. To other people, it's time.
Right.
To me, me in particular was, okay, I'm spending all this time at work. I barely see my kids. Now it's the opposite. I spend less time at work. I can see my kids more.
Whatever you want, right.
It is limited because of obviously the divorce situation.
No doubt.
Right.
But I can, if my kids have a field trip, Dad can go.
I'll be seeing that, man, on your Instagram.
I go to almost all of their field trips because I remember my father. He used to be in all of my field trips.
Right.
So to me, that kind of stuck with me. And when I see my daughter's face, we took her we went to the aquarium.
Yeah, I saw that.
I surprised her, but to see her face is priceless.
While she holding that little boy's hand, though.
I took that hand. I'm like, yo, who are you?
I was about to find that little kid.
We got to cut that boy's hand off?
I got rid of her.
I'm not afraid, man.
There's no hand left. But it's it's power, and to me it's like that's what I want. I want my time.
Yeah.
So, but to get my time, I need to put in the work now.
Absolutely.
So now I'm creating all these systems, procedures, and finding ways to potentially franchise the business. Because now, if you're making X amount of dollars, you take the 10X rule. Okay, now I just need X amount of restaurants to run themselves. I just hire a manager that can run the businesses. They report to me, and then that's it. But you have to create systems for it.
And that's beautiful, bro. I mean, I'm like I said, bro. I can never stop saying it enough, man. I'm super proud of where you came from, where you're going. I know this ain't the end for you. But another question I have, as far as doing business with your wife, man, like. How is that? Like, how is it doing business with your actual spouse? Like,
you see her all the time. And it's like all the time.
It ain't even about that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You wake up, go to work with her. You see her at work. You talk to her about work. Like, how does that work?
Like your relationship when you met her, right? So it was more like you was courting her, right? And then it became a business, personal relationship at the same damn time. Mm-hmm. How is that? Like, how would you give advice to people who plan on going into business with their spouse, as far as like maintaining the balance of we're partners, but you're also my wife.
Yeah.
Right. There's a fine line.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Very fine line. There was a really good book that I read called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
By Dale Carnegie.
It's funny, he committed suicide.
What?
Dale Carnegie could commit
that
suicide.
I didn't read.
Yeah.
You serious?
A lot of people don't
know that. Wait, no, he didn't write Outwitting the Devil.
No, that was Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill,
yeah.
Okay. I did
yeah.
Dale Carnegie?
At least
bunch of readers up in here, man.
Anyway,
all right, well,
let's go.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm just trying to be positive.
I might be wrong. But anyway.
So back to the book.
You hear this dude, man?
So it was Dale Carnegie just like a super manipulative person?
No,
like, is that what it is? Like,
it could be.
It could be.
He's a sociopath.
But again,
it sounds like.
You could use it for good or bad, but it teaches you how to work with people.
Right, I'm sorry. I digress. Go ahead.
What was the name of that book one more time, just so we can get back on course?
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's actually a really good read. I like that book. I'm just talking
really
shit.
You read that, Chizz?
Yeah, absolutely. I read it twice,
really
actually.
Yeah, you got
it's a
it?
great book, yeah.
Let me borrow it.
No, I actually borrowed it from a friend of mine.
All right, you ain't shit.
But whatever.
All right, whatever. He didn't even buy the book, so that lets you know he really don't support.
I mean, I'm a cheap bastard. But anyway, go ahead. We gotta bring this in for a landing. So let's get this out. All right.
Working with you gotta. When it comes to business, you need to treat it as a business. You cannot have emotions involved. Whether you guys are having a bad day or a good day, and I know it's hard, but once you get into the workplace, you leave all the bullshit behind and you deal with work, and then that's it. You're probably gonna be, angry at each other, but you have to put that aside. And it's even hard for us. It's tough. But we actually love being around each other. We learn a lot from each other, and what's good with me and her is a lot of things that I'm good at and that she isn't. It's the same, vice versa. She's good at a lot of things that I'm not. So it's
whatever
good.
She lacks,
it's good
I ring over her shoulder.
Correct.
When I'm off track, mommy is keeping me focused. Go ahead.
That balance.
It's the balance.
Yeah,
but
that's dope.
But you guys need to really define roles. Who gets the final word and what.
So who gets the final word?
the wife.
If we both agree on something, we're fine. If there's a disagreement, we'll get a third party who's mutual.
Oh yeah.
And make a decision.
You should call me next time.
I'll call you next time.
I'll pick you. I'll pick you every time.
An unbiased person.
I'm not biased. I don't know her, so I pick you. But that's actually smart, though.
You need to set, some boundaries. Everybody needs to know their roles, what role they play in the business.
Right.
And also I recommend marriage counseling.
Oh.
A lot of people see marriage counseling as something when your marriage is failing.
Right.
Okay.
But I feel like people get to that failing point because they didn't do marriage counseling. Relationship and these things with emotion, even raising your kids, you're not taught that in school. You only see what you were raised and how other people treat their kids or how other people treat their wives. So it's like having a marriage counselor who's really there to guide you and support you. I feel like it's kind of being more proactive than reactive to the situation. And again, this is something I learned from failing in my previous marriage.
No doubt.
So this counselor has actually helped us a lot.
Right.
And a lot of the times, if we were getting angry, it's like, why? Just talk it out or just step away and then have a conversation when you guys are calm instead of just reacting.
Right.
So that to me really helped, and it really helped the business because the business, when you guys are doing good, then the business is gonna be doing good.
Absolutely.
And
tripled.
vice versa.
Like you said, you tripled, baby.
And it tripled because we were working together.
No doubt.
So that just helped us a lot, and just keeping that balance. You're gonna go through your ups and downs as in any marriage, but anytime you need some help, why not ask for help? We ask for help for business, we ask for help for finances, but we don't ask for help for our, how to raise our kids or how to manage our relationship.
What's really important.
And that's more important. And even, behavioral health. I ended up going to, I had my own therapist, that I can it's just somebody that, you feel comfortable speaking to. Because, you have your friends, your best friends, but there's always that what if.
Right.
What if they tell somebody or what if they think something about me?
Right.
You go into a therapist.
This is their job.
That's their job. That's what they're going to do. And they're there to help.
Right.
And me, like, there's a book called I forgot the name, but something about men crying, like why men cry or men can cry, something like that. I'll find out.
Nigga, I'll be crying.
But no, that's fine. But there's there's so much emotion that us as men we deal with, and it's like, who are we to cry? You feel me? Like you said, I don't cry. Because it's like an unmanly thing to do, but it's like
my daughter that
was one of but that's kind of what fucked me up.
Yeah.
I had so much shit inside me,
Yeah.
it just bottled up.
Yeah.
It's funny that and I think it's ironic that you say that, because one of the illest conversations that we had, it was very quick and it was very in passing. Like, we was teenagers. And I was like, yo, your problem is that you too fucking emotional.
You too soft.
And then you was like, nigga, you emotional too. You just show it as aggression.
Yeah.
And that shit stuck with me, because I was like,
that's what we were taught, man.
That's how we're taught.
Like,
We're taught that boys don't cry, man.
What's wrong with me? Like,
Men
why
don't
do
cry.
I do that shit, though?
Because
like,
men don't cry, man. We was taught that our whole lives.
Very long. We had to be like 19 or 20 at the time when we said this to each other.
That's some real shit.
And it just stuck with me because, being an adult now and being a father, and I've been in a decade-long relationship.
That's a long ass time, man.
Yeah, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
You,
and
man.
thank you, man. Thank you. So, we still go through shit, obviously. You know what I'm saying?
Every day, man.
And I always think about that. I always think about you saying that, like, yo, you emotional too. You just show it as aggression. And I always catch myself like, damn, I could have said it differently. You know what I mean? Like, I could have dealt with that a little different.
Right.
And honestly, I haven't done counseling, man, but that's probably something that every relationship should go through, man. Like, on some real, like,
It really helped me.
I talked to my uncle Leo. Shout out my Uncle Leo. He's like the illest dude I know. He's a pastor and he's a nurse, and
wow.
He's everything.
He's everything.
Uncle Leo, he's
He's that guy, man.
And I talk to him very, rarely when I need like a real good piece of advice, and he always finds a way to break things down from his perspective. So I feel like that's my outlet, but the fact that not everybody has an Uncle Leo.
Yeah, everybody needs needs an outlet, man.
So
I have an Uncle Juan, but
Uncle Juan. Of course you would have an Uncle Juan. Of course you would have an Uncle Juan.
which Juan? But yeah, and the book is called "Cry Like a Man" by Jason Wilson.
Cry Like a Man.
Yeah, but he
Jason
had a
Wilson?
really rough childhood, and then it showed him how to actually cry.
It's a cop. Oh,
It's
shit.
a cop
That's
car, man.
offense.
So yeah.
But it was a really good
Them
book.
people, man.
It really opened up my eyes, but it really helped.
Well, that's good, bro. That's good, brother. Any, this podcast is called "Choose What the Future Brings" Radio, man. So, how do you plan on choosing what the future brings? What does the next 2 to 5 years look like for you?
Wow.
As a plan.
The next 2 to 5 years, I mean, it's just continuing to grow the restaurant. I want to definitely. My goal is to turn it into like a franchise.
Yes.
The Dominican restaurants, they really don't have like structure, and I feel like they're not really commercialized as Japanese, Mexican, Korean, Chinese food are.
Yes.
And there's a lot of potential. And I feel like I want to pioneer the Dominican restaurants into, because a lot of people from different, even suburban communities, they love the food.
Right.
Most of our businesses in Boston
And
and
white people
Cambridge.
at my job
Yes.
be like, it's so
They
delicious.
love it. Yeah, they said this is the.
love that
They
shit.
said, this is the good lunch we're gonna get. I'm like,
Because they don't know no
Delicious
better.
is the white people's favorite
Right,
word.
delicious.
Yes.
Americans.
They don't know no other
Oh my
words.
God, it's
So good.
delicious.
This is exquisite. They love
I love
using
you
those
white
stupid
people.
words.
Right, but that's what they like, and that's who our market target is. Now.
And there's nothing wrong with that, man.
That's
You
what
got to
just
target
growing
them.
the business. Continuing my focus on real estate, teaching real estate investment. That's something I'm really good at. Creating ways to teach other people. I love teaching. I love seeing other people succeed.
Absolutely.
And my kids are really my main focus
Yeah,
too.
man.
I
what it
want
is,
to build that relationship with them, continue to see them grow, be healthy. I know the situation that they're going through now, and even before, it was very tough.
Right.
And one thing I didn't mention, when I was going through that phase where we were separating, my kids, seeing their faces
They
killed me.
suffered, man.
But my daughter, she was in the car and she was like, "Are you still my dad?"
Oh, wow.
Damn.
That
That's
killed
tough.
me.
That's
That
tough.
killed me. And when she told me that, like, I cried. I was like, wow.
Of course. I
So
mean that,
to
right?
me, it's like I always want to be there for my kids. I never want to let them down, and I want my son to follow a good example.
Right.
Because me and him, I like our relationship. I'm very friendly with him. We hug. He'll he's almost 10, but he'll still like randomly hold my hand, and I'm like, oh wow. He feels comfortable.
Lucky you.
Yeah, he feels
My son don't
comfortable.
hold my hand no more. He too cool for that.
It's so cool. But, we have that level of comfort. And my daughter, just continuing to teach her right from wrong and just always being there for her. These small field trips, which can, seem insignificant to us.
Nah, that's big to
But
them.
they're really big for them.
That's
They
everything.
really love it.
Right.
So just continuing to be there for them and just continuing to grow, personally and professionally in
No doubt.
the world of entrepreneurship.
That's
And
awesome.
but I really want to outreach to more people. Like I feel like I have so much information and so much of myself. I really would love to finish my book, and then just teaching young kids, the realities of life. Because in school, one big thing that I wanted was like life 101 class or something where they teach
never
you
had
things
that.
that are important.
Right.
And they don't teach
how
you
to
that.
survive. They don't.
Nah.
I'm just now seeing maybe some financial literacy going in there, but it's like after all these 100 years of schooling,
Right.
now you're putting in financial
They
literacy.
don't
There's
teach
so
what's
much
important
more
in
to it.
school, man.
So, just being successful, not to say I am, but, it's something that you're always going after.
Absolutely.
It's success, a lot of people, become depressed because they feel like I should be at this level. One big piece of advice is not to compare yourself to anybody else.
man.
And don't judge a person
your own
by where
race.
they are because you
Right.
don't know how far they've come.
You don't know what they have to
You
go
know what
through.
they've been through.
Right.
You see me here, but
Like,
you hear
your
my
story's
story, it's
amazing,
like-
bro.
It's crazy,
Your
the
story's
things that-
wild,
the things I have
man.
to go
Because,
through.
you know what I mean?
And
Like, I never looked at it from
Yeah.
that perspective. Like, while you was going through it, like, we was living our own lives.
Right.
And I would see glimpses of your life
Correct.
every now and then. So
And
I
we only
didn't-
show the good.
Right,
That's
but it's not
usually
even
what
that.
it is.
It's not even about only the good, because I remember when you was at your mom's and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was by choice. I didn't know that.
We
it
didn't know the
wasn't.
backstory,
You see what
man.
I'm saying? Like, and that's what I mean, because I always looked at you as a super. This Tito's mad responsible.
He's a super Mexican.
This nigga,
He is the ultimate
this
Mexican.
nigga's the ultra gordita, my nigga.
No
Like,
doubt. No doubt.
The chalupa, chalupa.
The chalupa of all chalupas.
But it's like, but you see those things, and I appreciate you for being vulnerable, because a lot of people don't like talking about shit like that, bro. And that's ill. That you overcame that, and that you came out on top. You got the Cuban link looking crazy, son. Yeah.
Yo, again. He smells like $1 million bucks.
But tell the people how they can reach you, man. Social media, man. What are the social medias that you actually use?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram and Facebook at Roberto Green Jr. Facebook, you can find me easily, Roberto Green Jr.
And what's the name of your restaurant? One more time.
Palmas Restaurant.
Where's it located?
Rosendale. Right now, it's located in Rosendale.
All right. Maybe good moving. Shit gonna happen soon. Don't worry about it.
Street in Rosendale. Google it. Las Palmas.
It's bomb.
Food
I'm here to help.
Exquisite.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Great. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Get that arroz con pollo.
I need to get like a free pastelito every morning. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But any last closing words you want to leave the people with, man?
No, man. I mean, I wish you a lot of success with your podcast. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, brother.
Great relationship.
For real.
Amy, Penny.
Yeah.
I love seeing you guys. And I wish you much continued success. And I'm here for you guys anytime.
Absolutely, man. Fifth, you wanna end this out?
Yeah, man. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, King Rick 86. This is my pointless plug, but yeah, man. Definitely happy that I was invited to come through. I've known Chizz since he was like 6.
It's my big bro right here, man. I know this guy since I was in elementary school, man.
His father used to actually come pick me up and drop me off at school.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to the OG, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the first thing that this guy did to exert his dominance over me when we met was beat me in a foot race as a kid, right?
I smoked that nigga too, man.
But these are my brothers, man. I love these guys to death, man. I'm glad that we just got to sit here and have a conversation about some real shit. I hope y'all get a piece of it. At CWTFB Radio, we're not only going to be talking about hip hop, we're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs coming up here, man. Next week we got an ill guest coming up as well. Just follow these guys online, man. They already dropped their handles. And we gonna keep it moving, man. So thanks y'all for tuning in, man. We out.
Peace.
Yeah, and hair grease.